What's up, Met fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets at Rob. How is everybody doing the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday? Hopefully, everybody had a good and healthy and safe Thanksgiving, and hopefully, this is the beginning of what we were expecting, which is free agent frenzy for the offseason. We're waiting for anything at this moment to get started with our offseason. We all know how it works out. Once the first top 10 to top 20 free agent signs, when it's a big name, then everything just falls down in place and it just starts to, it's like rapid fire. Boom, boom, boom. And that's what we got to wait for. Until then, we get to talk about more rumors. We get to talk about what we want, what you want, what they want, what type of ways that we can actually make this team better. And this goes for everyone across the league, not just the Mets. Even though this is the Mets channel, this is all about MLB Free Agent Frenzy. Of course, we're going to talk a lot about the Mets because the majority of my subscribers are Mets fans, so it just makes sense that we're going to get a lot of questions on that. But I want to start off with something that was recently put up on Instagram and later on Twitter about Carlos Correa. There's been a lot of talk with Carlos Correa and the Twins giving him multiple offers from the Twins to Correa. They've been one of the most aggressive teams towards Correa. And obviously, they know how valuable he is. Even though they didn't make the playoffs last year, the Twins, Correa is a superstar. We all know that. And according to multiple reports, the Twins have gave multiple offers to Carlos Correa. But the problem that the Twins have is that the teams that are known, there's 8 teams involved, at least in contract talks with Carlos Correa. The teams that are known are the Giants, the Twins, the Dodgers, and the Cubs. And let's see, and Heyman and a couple of other reporters said that there are 4 mystery teams that have been at the negotiating table with Carlos Correa. So if it, just to throw that out on a whim, would it be the New York Mets, one of those mystery teams? Because let's be honest, we know one thing about the New York Mets ever since Steve Cohen took over the team. For the last couple of years, this is year 3 of Steve Cohen, there has not been leaks out of the organization. So all these rumors that you heard from Buster Olney, John Heyman, Andy Martino, this one, that guy over there, this one, the guy behind me, everybody is just making opinions. They are trying to make stories because there is no story. All right. One thing that Met fans need to learn, and I know it's hard because we dealt with the Wilpons my entire life, and most of people's entire lives, we dealt with the Wilpons where there was leak after leak after leak when it came to free agent rumors or just team rumors, organizational rumors, everything in between with that. So we have to take a step back as Mets fans and realize that one thing that has been consistent with the Steve Cohen era is that there has not been leaks out of the organization from the front office executives. All we hear is speculation and opinions from reporters because they know they can't get anything out of this. Let me ask you guys something. And somebody brought this up on WFAN on one of the overnights. As you guys know, I do work the overnights. I was listening to WFAN on the overnights, and a fan brought this up, and it made perfect sense when he said it. And I'm mad at myself that I didn't think about it. But let me say what he said. He said, did anybody hear rumors? Was there rumors on Twitter or any reporter, national or local, had any information about the trade that was going to go down for Francisco Lindor? No, it just happened. It caught on as soon as the trade was about to happen. Once again, did the Max Scherzer sign-in was known? People wrote us off. Andy Martino, John Heyman. They say there was no chance. You can go back last year around this time, and they specifically said in their tweet, the Mets have no interest and no chance of getting Max Scherzer. What happened? right before Scherzer was about to sign, the day before, that's when the rumors started to pop up about the Mets being all in on Max Scherzer. Oh, there was another one, a little bit less of players, Marte, Canna, Escobar. All three were signed the same night. Did we even hear a peep about that? No, it just happened. The same thing with the Chris Bassett trade, and it goes on and on and on. So ever since Steve Cohen has taken over, the consistency of it all being behind closed doors and nothing has been leaked out has been one of the trademarks for Steve Cohen and the New York Mets since Cohen has taken over the team. That's something that you have to understand as Met fans. Just because there's no rumors leaking out and you hear the nonsense. Remember, Buster Olney, the Braves are going to be all in on Jacob deGrom. Jacob deGrom is leaving, right? This is what we heard. Andy Martino, oh, the Mets are not going to go after Aaron Judge. Okay, I can believe that, but that's not like that's something that he got from his sources, as he says he got from his sources. Common sense will tell you the Mets are probably not going to go after Aaron Judge, which, in my opinion, is an absolute joke. What do the Mets need? An outfielder and a power bat. Judge fits two of those categories. Again, I don't know if Steve Cohen's going to make a run. I probably think he'll make an offer, but I do think he wants to see offers on the table and then see. That's something that I think we can look at when it comes to that point. But there has been speculation and rumors about Carlos Correa and 8 teams after him. 4 we know, the Giants, the Twins, the Dodgers, and the Cubs, and 4 mystery teams. I can assure you the Mets are one of those mystery teams. The only reason why I say that is because why wouldn't they be? If you're going to be in on Turner, you have to be in on Correa as well. And even though I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now, the Mets offseason evolves around Trey Turner. I don't think that anything the Mets do, because I don't see the Mets going after Bogarts or Swanson, possibly Correa. I don't see them going after Aaron Judge. So if you're looking at the people that, or the players that the Mets could get, and if they're really not in on all those guys, who's left? The Mets free agents, right? Jacob deGrom, Brandon Nimmo. And if Nimmo comes back to the Mets, no problem. Won't be exactly happy, but it can't be just Nimmo, right? We talked about this, and I think a lot of people do agree. Again, no Mets fan is going to say, including myself, I don't want Nimmo. That's crazy. But if you give me a choice between Turner or Nimmo, you have to choose Turner. But I want to get greedy. There's no reason why the Mets shouldn't get Nimmo and Turner, because I don't care what anybody says. If you have whoever you want to bat ninth or first, if it's Nimmo or Turner, you can have a 9-1-2 of Nimmo, Turner, Marte. I don't care what anybody says. That's a dynamic 3 batters right there. That's at the ninth spot in the order and 1 and 2. And I'll tell you right now, that sounds great. But again, what worries me is the fact that if the Mets value Nimmo, that's fine. But you can't bring back the same lineup and expect different results. I don't think Nimmo is going to get better offensively. I think he is what he is offensively. He's a 260, 270 hitter. He doesn't steal bases, which I kind of got used to at this point, but with the bigger bases this year and the whole how many times you could throw over to first, Nimmo's got to learn. The one thing that I think would make me want Nimmo more is if he tried to steal bases. Again, you might be unsuccessful, but with his speed, because he's very, very quick, Nimmo, he needs to steal some bases, especially with the way that the bases are going to be bigger. You can only throw over a certain amount of times to first base. That's something that gives Nimmo an opportunity to learn how to steal bases, and that starts with spring training. I never understood the fact why the Mets won't force Nimmo to steal bases in spring training, to get reads on pitches, the judge to move to steal a base on first movement with the pitcher. That's what they should be doing in spring training with Nimmo. I think Nimmo will be more of a dynamic player if he did that. That's one aspect that He has tremendous speed, but when you don't use it until the ball is hit, yeah, that's nice. But how many times in a spot when you want a stolen base, you might need a stolen base, and Nimmo's just standing there just waiting for the ball to be hit? It frustrates me. But the way the rules are now, with the new bases and how many times the pitchers can throw over, this gives the opportunity for Nimmo, if he is still a Met, to learn in spring training how to steal bases. I'm not saying to steal 30 bases, but having the threat, having the pitcher on the mound sweat and worry about a little bit, about Nimmo running. You know what? It makes the pitcher worry about the run a little bit more, not really focused on the batter. I'm sorry, but every pitcher that's on the mound and Nimmo's on first base, you don't have to even look at the runner, because what's the point? He's not stealing. We'll see how that goes with Brandon Nimmo. Once again, Carlos Correa, this is one of the bigger news about. We actually hear about teams very interested in Carlos Correa: the Giants, the Twins, the Dodgers, and the Cubs, and 4 mystery teams. And as I said, I do believe the Mets are one of those mystery teams, just because why the hell not, right? The Twins are the only ones that we know of that have gave multiple offers to Carlos Correa. At the moment, he's still, checking out the team, see what offer he can get, and we'll see what happens when it comes to that. But when it comes to the Mets, on MLB Network yesterday or early this morning, they said they talked about Jacob deGrom, that his interest has been slowly shrinking. And that's not a shock, because of the fact he is looking for more than Scherzer per year, which he'll probably get for wherever team signs him. But now that we know that the Rangers are very focused and interested in signing Carlos Rodon, that probably takes him out of the running for Jacob deGrom. And what we've heard, you always worry about the Dodgers, but I do not think Jacob deGrom is going to leave New York and go to LA. That's like the furthest part you can go to from Florida. All right. And unless the Dodgers blow him out of the water with a contract, I don't think he's going there. You always worry about the Dodgers, but I doubt it. So besides the Rangers, I'm starting to think of teams that can sneak up and be a mystery team. Could the Angels do it? They always seem like they spent money stupidly sometimes. Maybe. I doubt it, but maybe. You could look at, I could have thought the Braves because of the proximity to Florida, but it doesn't seem like the Braves want to cough up that type of money, and they never do in their history when it comes to pitchers. I'm trying to go around the league. Maybe the Giants. Maybe. I doubt it. I think they're so focused on Judge. Yeah, really. Can you really think about any other team? I don't see the Astros going after him. Some people said the Yankees, but unless the Yankees lose out on Judge, I don't think Jacob deGrom will go to the Yankees unless the Yankees lose Judge. But I think Jacob deGrom is going to sign before Aaron Judge, because what they said on MLB Network was the fact that they think in the coming days, that was their quote, coming days, they think Jacob deGrom is going to make a decision and sign. And I think, to be honest with you, Thanksgiving dinner, buddy. All them leftovers, right? I think the offer has already been given to Jacob deGrom, and we just haven't heard about it yet. And again, when it comes to the Mets not leaking out information and Jacob deGrom that never leaks out information, it's kind of a combination of, it's probably known what the offer is from Jacob deGrom's side. He's going to other teams, say, can you do better than this? And he's probably getting a lot of no's. Yeah, Daniel, you must be drinking some good stuff. That coquito, man, that must be working in there right now. There's no way the Dodgers are doing that. I don't think Turner's going back to the Dodgers. I think he wants to come back to the East Coast. I do think it's between the Mets and the Phillies. Unless the Mets and the Phillies decide to go in another direction, I doubt the Dodgers are going to get Turner. Now, I can see the Dodgers going after Correa or going after Swanson if they lose out on Turner, or even Bogarts for that matter. But I think Turner wants to go to the East Coast, and I think he's focused on coming to the East Coast. You know, you can look at the Orioles, the Mets, the Phillies. That teams are going to be looking at Turner. The Grom in LA just doesn't make sense, to be honest with you guys. I just don't see that. Judge could be a possibility. We heard that the Dodgers offered him a contract, and Judge already turned it down. I'm assuming the Dodgers probably gave him like a 4 or 6 year offer worth like crazy amount of money per year. But Judge wants an 8, 7, 8, 9, probably 8, 9 year deal. So yeah. Stoney, I can see us getting Chafin. Yeah, I think a lot of the teams are waiting for the bullpen. You know, what you see a lot when it comes to bullpen signings, you'll see that during the winter meetings. You always see like a couple of bullpen arms sign during the winter meetings, so I do expect that. But I do expect a lot of these players like Judge don't want this to linger. DeGrom doesn't want this to linger. I would not be surprised if Judge signs right before, Jacob DeGrom signs sometime this weekend or into the early part of the winter meetings, and I think Judge is going to sign, if not sometime during the meeting, right after that. So, because all the offers will be on the table for Judge, and it's not like there's going to be a lot of back and forth here. I think these teams know what they want to offer. They know how high they will go, and they will not budge off of that. You know, I could see the Giants slowly increasing the number to entice Judge to leave the Yankees, and I still believe that Judge is gone. I do not think the Yankees are going to go past 350, and I do think the Giants will go up to $400 million if they have to. But I don't think they have to. I think that he's going to sign. I think the Giants are going to give him around the 375 to 380 contract for 8 or 9 years, and I don't think the Yankees are going to come to that number. I think they will go as high as 350. I don't think they're going higher than that. And you know what? If is it a bad thing for the Yankees? Yeah, you might say that if you don't look at it from a different perspective. But look what they can do if they're willing to give $350 million to Aaron Judge. Wouldn't you think they could take that $350 million and spread it between 2 or 3 really good players? Joe, I don't believe that rumor of 9 years, $337 million. The reason why I say that is because the person who put that up on Twitter, I don't really trust, to be honest with you, because it was one of those Spanish reporters, and nobody at all have actually, like, you know, like when another reporter retweets it and says, "I've heard that too, but this guy had it first." Yeah, I don't believe that, to be honest with you, and I do understand that. Hector Gomez, I mean, he's few and far between. But usually you'll get a Ken Rosenthal, a John Morosi, somebody that's associated, even a Buster Olney, right? Hector Gomez was for ESPN and all that. But you would see another reporter retweet that and say, "Yes, I've heard the same information. First had it was this guy." Nobody's done that. And again, maybe Hector Gomez has some little inside information. I guess, but I don't know how true that is. Usually when one person only has it, I kind of am 50-50 about that. But if one of those other guys would have retweeted it and said, "I agree, I heard the same information," it's kind of like, I feel like, like these type of reporters like Hector Gomez, who is well known, but is a guy that's been probably on the back burner a little bit. He's one of those guys that probably want to get that out there first and wants to be the first one to say that. And then when that team comes out with their first offer and it's known, he would say, "Oh, I was the first one to have it," or "I was close to that number." We'll see. Again, even with Kodai Senga, you know what I'm saying? With the Japanese reporter that's following him throughout the States the last 2 weeks or so, he reported that the Mets were the first ones to give Kodai Senga an offer. Again, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that was a way to get more money from other teams or more years. I don't know. But again, I didn't put all my marbles into that and say, that's a fact. I don't know, because his job is to follow Senga around. Like, he's not going to have anything bad to write about what's going on with Senga. So, and yeah, so who knows? But we'll have to wait and see about that. So again, there's not a lot of news regarding anybody, to be honest with you, except for Jacob deGrom. A lot of people are saying, and what MLB Network said this morning was the fact that they think Jacob deGrom is going to make a decision within days. I guess that kind of makes sense. Thanksgiving, have his family around, have conversations about that, because around the table you're gonna have conversations about that. And I think Jacob deGrom don't want to put this out too long. He wants to know where he's going to be, where he's gonna put his family. I don't think he wants to wait until January, which he pretty much could, but why would he? He's that type of person that likes to probably have everything set already, be comfortable, have his family comfortable, and that's something that I think that Jacob deGrom wants. And the same thing that goes for Aaron Judge. They don't want to prolong this, right? There's only a handful, you could probably count them on one hand, who can pay Aaron Judge, right? The same thing with Jacob deGrom. There's probably, you can count teams on one hand, probably even half the fingers, that can actually pay Jacob deGrom or want to pay Jacob deGrom. Because like every team in the league can pay Jacob deGrom or Aaron Judge. They just don't want to. So we just have to wait and see with that. Yeah, Ken, exactly. I don't think any of the baseball players struggled. Joe, I don't know if that's gonna happen because I see Correa. You can go back and forth on who is the bigger shortstop, Correa or Turner. It's a toss-up in my opinion. It's just dependent on what type of player you're looking for. I think the Mets need more of a Trey Turner than they do a Carlos Correa, even though I take either one. But that's the funny thing, Joe. One of those mystery teams can be the Baltimore Orioles. They're looking for a shortstop, right? They're trying to get better. Yeah, Ken. Yeah, NJ Fishing, Turner and Rodon. I think that's probably more Turner Jacob deGrom than Turner Rodon. I think the Mets want. I feel like now I'm starting to feel, even though I wasn't confident 2 weeks ago, I do feel like the Mets is gonna make sure they sign deGrom and do everything else they have to do after that. Like if that's Senga, if that's maybe still going after Rodon, who knows? But the Mets pitching wasn't the problem last year. The bullpen or starting pitching, right? Even though we didn't have in total. We didn't have Scherzer and deGrom combined for about 13 weeks, almost 14 weeks out of the season. Well, actually 15 weeks out of the season. You can really think the fact that how good this Mets team could have been if their pitching staff was healthy. So it's kind of interesting to think, like, yeah, it's always important to have pitching, but let's be honest. The Phillies made the World Series with garbage in their pitching staff, right? Their bullpen was basically the same bullpen that they had all season. It's just that they started the pitch a little bit better. But when it came down to the biggest moments in the World Series, the guys that were killing them during the season came back to roost in the World Series, right? So once again, it comes down to the fact that yes, pitching is important, but the reason why the Mets were so good last year was in the first half, they scored a ton of runs. They were top 3 in the league in runs scored. But you saw the deficiency in the second half when it came to the Mets and putting hits together to score runs. That was the problem, right? When a couple of guys got cold in the lineup, you can't get those 3, 4, 5 hits together to score a couple of runs. You need that 1 or 2 big bats that even if they're struggling can still connect on a ball and hit a 3-run homer. The Mets were lacking that. If it wasn't Pete Alonso trying to hit a 3-run jack, you weren't expecting a home run from anybody else. You were praying that somebody hit the ball in the gap. That's the biggest issue with the Mets. And that's why when you don't hear nothing about the Mets and Aaron Judge, even though, look, I don't want to give Judge 9 years, $350 million or $400 million. I don't want to do that. But if you take everything out of the way with information or what Judge is, he's going to be 31 years old. Obviously, he's going to have a contract up until he's 39, 40 years old. You worry about that. But for the next 3 years, having Judge and Alonso back-to-back in a lineup is dangerous as hell. And that's something that if Steve Cohen talks about this 3 to 5 year window, well, he's in year 3. So if you're going to go, you want a championship in the next 5 years, Aaron Judge makes the most sense in the short term. Long term might be a disaster. But short term makes a lot of sense, right? Sign Jacob deGrom. Sign Rodon. Sign Aaron Judge, right? That seems like a 5 year window, or at least a 3 year window, where you have year 3, year 4, year 5, with Alonso in his prime, Judge in his prime, and that's something that would make so much sense, because you can't be serious about a 3 to 5 year window of winning the World Series and not go after one of the best free agents, position players on the market. And that's the only way that you can take this offseason seriously, right? Like, I don't think the Mets are going to sign Aaron Judge. But I can assure you, if there's a player that uses the Mets to get more money from another team, I think Cohen's going to snap and get pissed off, because he did it last year, right? What happened with Noah Syndergaard saying, oh, Mets, please give me the qualifying offer. I'm going to take it. And then they offer it to him, and he takes $2 million more to go to the Angels. What did he do, right? He traded for Chris Bassett. Steven Matz, the Mets offered him a 2-year deal. He took that, used the Mets, and say, hey, can you do a little bit better? The Cardinals gave him a couple $1 million more. Steven Matz went to the Cardinals, and what happened? The Mets signed Max Scherzer. So it comes down to that. What are the Mets doing? Well, Rocky, I don't know if you can say that. The Mets are one of the oldest teams in the league. Yeah, they might get a little bit younger based on if Alvarez comes up and stays on the roster. Beatty might be on the roster. They might be a little bit younger, but let's be honest. They're going to be still one of the oldest teams in the league. So let's not act like 4 years from now, Beatty, Alvarez, Mauricio, Alex Ramirez, all these guys that we've heard about for years come up and be really good players and help this team continue to be consistent. But there's no guarantee of that. That's why this team, and people don't want to, I don't know what's wrong with a lot of people that keep on talking about prospects, but yet you got a team that has a 3-year window, right? This team, in 4 years from now, Jacob deGrom might be broken down. Scherzer is off the team. Carrasco is off the team. Alonso is above 30 years old now and probably on the new extension deal that the Mets gave him. McNeil's a few years older. You got Marte is probably on his last year of his deal. Escobar is gone. Can is gone. What are you working with here? And then who knows what this rotation is going to look like? DeGrom's going to be 36, 37 years old by the 3 to 4 year window if you don't have a World Series. Well, now that same prospects that everybody wants to hold on to, the Mets have no pitching prospects. The only one that they have is Calvin Ziegler, who broke the top 10 last year in the Mets prospect list, and he might be 2 years away. And, we don't have DeGrom, Harvey, Matz, Syndergaard waiting in the system here. We don't have that. So the people that keep on talking about, oh, the Mets are going to be good the 4 to 5 years. Well, I don't even give a crap about 2024. For in this case, 2024, the world can end. I want to win in 2023. The same problem that I had with all the people that were prospect hugging this year during the trade deadline that didn't want to trade certain prospects. How many times did people did not want to get rid of Mark Vientos for Mark Vientos and Dominic Smith and maybe another prospect for a big bat? And how did that turn out for us? The same people that were bitching and moaning about Vogelback and Ruff and complaining this team can't hit home runs, this team can't hit, were the same people that wanted to not give up any prospects. And you know what? Epler had that same problem. He patted himself on his damn back that he kept his top 25 prospects, and it got us Ugats in the playoffs, right? It got us nowhere. That's the problem. And if you're going to continue to talk about prospects and talk about 4 years in 3 years, it doesn't matter. Worry about the year that is upcoming and worry about that year. If you worry about, this is why you have scouts. If you have good scouts and you draft well, right? The Dodgers, the Yankees, right? Teams that make the playoffs every year and are picking 27, 28, 29th in the draft every year, find a way to draft good prospect, good players out of the draft that late. The Mets have been in the middle of the pack for how many years now? And they still can't develop and get players that every year you see the Dodgers bring out players, the Braves bring out players, you know, the Yankees bring out players. Again, it seems the same thing every year. Why do the Braves, who win the division every year, picking from 25 to 30 every year, still find a way to get these players in the draft, and these guys come up and do well? The same thing with the Dodgers. Yeah, the Dodgers spent a ton of money, but look at their rotation. Look at the players on their team, right? These guys, they drafted late in the first round. So it comes back to the fact that you can be a consistent team, a consistent winning team, making the playoffs every year, possibly winning the championship and contending, and still draft well. That's why when Cohen took over, he revamped the scouting department. He revamped the analytics department and made it bigger where the scouts can use it. And let's be honest, the Dodgers, the Astros, the Braves, they all use analytics to figure out these prospects over and over again. You just got to find the right mix of analytics and scouts to draft so you can draft these guys and not make them spend 6 years in the minor leagues like the Mets seem to do with almost everybody, right? I want to see what the Braves do, the Dodgers do. In 2 years, they drafted this guy in 2022 and 2024. This guy's up and starting in a position that they had him in. That's what the Mets need to do. So until you worry about, I don't care about Alvarez. I don't care about Brett Beatty. I don't care about Vientos. I do not give a damn about them. Unless they're helping this major league roster, they're trade bait. That's the way I see it. The same thing that goes for Ronnie Mauricio, same thing that goes for Alex Ramirez, Calvin Ziegler, any other top 10 prospect in the Mets system. If you can get a known player that has a track record and you have to give up a big-time prospect for him, I know that player that has a track record is going to be good. I don't know if Alvarez is going to be good. I don't care if he's the number 1 prospect in Major League Baseball. That means absolutely nothing to me. How many wins did I get the Mets last year when he came up? Granted, too late, in my opinion, but it's not like he came up like Harris did for the Braves and lit a spark under the Braves and it changed their season around, right? You see the Dodgers bring up these kids. Plays well. I don't care. Let the players on the team, if they don't help this team this year, I don't care. In my opinion, they're trade bait at the trade deadline. Stop with this nonsense that we just assume that Brett Beatty is going to be an all-star. Assume Alvarez is going to be an all-star. Listen, if you have such question marks at third base or at any position, and you have a prospect that can fill that spot, give him the opportunity. That's what I don't understand about the New York Mets. It killed me in the first half of last year when Escobar was absolutely garbage. Brett Beatty, who they at one point in the second half had no choice because of all the injuries to bring up Brett Beatty. Why not, knowing that Escobar was struggling, Luis Guillorme was hurt, bring up Brett Beatty and play him every day? Like, I just don't understand the fact the Mets are so afraid of putting these guys out there and letting them play, they're so afraid of them failing that their value will go down. So that means, number one, you don't think he's good enough if you worry about him failing. And number two, you don't want his value to go down. So you're not going to bring him up and take a chance to help this team. So now you're in the middle where let's not bring him up, because if he fails, he's not helping the team. But if you bring him up and he fails, his value is going to go down, and that's going to hurt us in the trade market. Yet Epler patted himself on the back that the top 25 prospects he did not trade. So you can't have it both ways. Either you have a position of need, and granted, the Mets had a position of need at third base for all of basically 4 months, right? Because Escobar was terrible. Guillorme wasn't the same player after he got hurt. Brett Beatty had a big chance to go in there, play him every day, and see what happens. But no, the Mets were so concerned about getting Escobar on the right track and getting this guy on the right track, and it came out to be Brett Beatty came up in the Brave series, great, hit the home run in his first at bat, but didn't do so well and then got hurt. Alvarez, they waited until the last week of the season, and the Brave series, all series, they bring up him in the biggest series of the year and expect Alvarez to be the difference maker. That's nonsense. And then Vientos, they waited too long, but he was basically a non-factor. So it comes back to the same issue over and over again with the Mets. Either use your damn prospects, bring them up and play them, and stop being a bunch of cowards, or trade them for known, proven players. Because if everybody hasn't checked, the Mets haven't won since 1986. This is not a team that won 3 years ago or 5 years ago. They haven't won since 1986. Don't continue to talk about prospects when you haven't won in 35 plus years. But Chris, the Mets have been long-term planning for how many years now? That's the problem. And this is the same problem with too many Mets fans. This is the problem. It's not about emotion. It's about common sense. They don't want to bring up their prospects when they got veterans struggling for months on end. When Beatty and Alvarez are lighting up the minor leagues, they don't want to bring them up, but they bring them all up at the worst time and not at the right time. And then they expect them to be the spark that lights up this team. It's a stupid way of going about it. If you're not going to bring these guys up, what are you waiting for? Because I'm going to tell you right now, congratulations when Beatty comes up and Alvarez and the no pitching prospects that the Mets don't have, because they don't have many. They have one, possibly two, and that's being nice about it. That's the issue. If Beatty and Alvarez are not all-stars and they're only good players, well, now their value is dropped, correct? Is dropped, right? Is not as high as it once was, right? You could have got anything for Francisco Alvarez as the number one prospect. Not saying I would have traded Alvarez. It has to be it has to be Ohtani to do something like that. But this guy, you brought him up in the biggest series of the year and expect everything to happen perfectly. It just doesn't make sense to me. And our owner said 3 to 5 years. We're in year 3. Beatty and Alvarez better be a part of this team, because if not, what the hell are you doing? The Mets waited way too long. When Escobar was terrible for 4 months, they had the opportunity. All right, they gave Luis Guillorme a chance. When he got hurt and Escobar was still garbage for 4.5 months, they could have brought up Brett Beatty, who was lighting up the minor leagues. But no, we can't have that, because if he struggles, his value goes down, and now we have to bring him back to the minors. So now he doesn't help the major league team, and now his value is lower than what he was before we brought him up. The same thing with Alvarez. McCann, garbage. Nito, who is a backup catcher, was the better overall catcher this year. Yet Alvarez was not even a thought. They were bringing up guys that they brought off another team, and this minor leaguer, that minor leaguer, and it never happened. So what are you afraid of? Right? The Braves brought Harris up from Double-A and threw him in center field. No thoughts about that. And they were chasing us, by the way. They had a lot more to lose than the Mets did. They were coming off a World Series championship where they were struggling. They brought him up, not knowing if Harris is going to be good or bad, but they needed something. Just like the Mets needed something at third, the Mets needed something at catcher. Now, I'm not saying to throw Alvarez out there every day catching. They were so concerned about, what if Alvarez can't catch the veteran pitchers of the rotation? Well, how about this? How about be a veteran pitcher and help this kid out? How about that? Right? And then when Scherzer and DeGrom was hurt and they pitched to him in the minors during their rehab starts, they said how good he was and how much better he was from spring training. So either the Mets were too afraid of having them fail so their value goes down. And if they brought him up and they failed, it didn't help the Major League Baseball team. So they tried and failed. They made trades for 200 hitters in Ruff and Vogelback and Dort, platoons at DH, which never work in the big leagues. Thought they would work when Dominic Smith, J.D. Davis, and Robinson Cano did not work. So they tried to double down on that with players that are just as bad and thought it was just going to turn around. And then this is what you get, losing in the wild card round, losing to the Braves and getting swept and losing in the division, right? They didn't do enough at the deadline because Epler was so afraid to lose a top 25 prospect to get an actual decent reliever or at least a big bat that can help out this lineup, which the Mets desperately needed in September. Oh, by the way, Chris, that's bullshit. I'm sorry. The number one prospect isn't ready, but Harris, who was the number 20 prospect in all of baseball in Double-A, was ready for the Braves? Come on, that's ridiculous. All right? If they weren't ready, you should have never brought him up at all and bring up another veteran that was wasting away in Triple-A. Because they brought up Beatty and they brought up Alvarez and they brought up Vientos. If they weren't ready, don't bring them up at all. But that's where, exactly, that's the problem, Chris. If they're not ready, don't bring them up at all and find veterans. Find another guy that's been in Triple-A for 4 years and that's 33 years old that can play third base or that can catch. That's the problem. And that's the biggest issue. Again, you want a prospect hug? All right. The Mets haven't won since 1986. You know, Generation K passed us by, right? Generation K 2.0 with DeGrom, Harvey, Matz, Syndergaard. That passed us away with no World Series championship, right? We had the Wright and Reyes years. That passed away. We made it to the NLCS. Didn't make the World Series. Collapsed in 07 and 08. That passed us by. We're at the moment right now where we're in the Alonso DeGrom era still. And sooner or later, that might pass us by. Why waste the great years and the most consistent in his prime years in Pete Alonso to figure out what we are supposed to do? This shouldn't be a guessing game here. This should be a win-now team. We are one of the oldest teams in the league. If Alvarez and Beatty are not ready, then you know what? Make a trade for Murphy for Oakland, right? Get a better catcher. How about this? Find a third baseman. There's 4 shortstops out there. 2 of them can play third base. What's the point? It makes no sense to me that you talk about prospects, but then you're the first one to complain when the Mets don't trade anybody for a big bat or big bullpen arms, and then they fail in the playoffs. They are the biggest fans that are complaining the most. Don't say, I want to keep my prospects. They're not ready, but claim that this team is a win. You don't win 101 games and say that this team's not ready to win the championship. They had a chance last year. Makes no sense. It makes no sense. Either you want the prospects aren't ready or they're ready. Either bring them up, let them play, or don't bring him up and find somebody else to replace him on the major league roster if there's injuries or if a player is struggling. Because that was the problem last year. We waited 4 months for Escobar to get a freaking hit. We waited for McCann to either not be injured or actually put the bat on the ball. And then we ran with backups in Luis Guillorme and Tomasito that is not going to make the world go on fire. And it continued to be a problem. And it started to trickle down ever since the trade deadline, where problems consist. You got a Vogelback guy who people claim is a power hitter, but yet Marte, Nimmo, guys like that had nearly the same amount of home runs as Vogelback. That's not a power hitter. Ruff, who couldn't hit a brown side of a barn, was a joke. And we traded four players, J.D. Davis and 3 minor leaguers, for Darren Ruff. And Holderman, who was a bullpen arm that the Mets could have used for Vogelback. I just don't get it. Now, I was okay with the Vogelback signing because I see it was early. It was like a week or two before the deadline. So it seemed like the first move of many for Epler to make, and he basically made nothing. It was a waste. Well, Justin, I understand that, but here's the problem. There's no guarantee from year to year that the Mets are going to be good, right? In their history, right? People like to bring up history. In their history, they haven't made the playoffs 3 consecutive years in a row, right? In their history. They've done it twice, a couple times. But other than that, it didn't happen. So we continue to act like the prospects, we've been waiting for prospects forever. I'm still waiting for Fernando Martinez. I'm still waiting for Lessons Millage. All right. It continues to be the same thing, right? Over and over again, right? People on this channel for a month did not want to trade Mark Vientos. I mean, come on. You just can't make up this nonsense. Like, why do we wait? And this has been the Yankees' problem as well, by the way, right? If you want to go into that aspect. The Yankees hold on to these players. Either they bring them up or leave them down, and they either don't make it in the big leagues, they struggle, they lose tremendous amount of value. Now the Yankees can't trade them and for anything worth noting, and they have to trade a player they didn't want to trade to get rid of these players because they didn't pan out to what they were supposed to be. Same thing was going on with the Mets here, right? Again, Beatty can be great, Alvarez can be great, but the Mets were in first place when Escobar was struggling, right? The Braves, who just won a World Series, by the way, were struggling. We're down in the dirt and brought up a double-A player that was supposedly not supposed to be better than so many other players, and people thought that Harris wasn't going to be ready, but they gave him a shot, right? Why couldn't you bring up Alvarez when he was in Double-A when McCann was hurt and struggling? There was multiple times McCann was on the IL. Alvarez could have came up. Not saying you had to catch him every day, but guess what? The DH was garbage. You could have DH Alvarez 80% of the time and let him catch 20% of the time. That would get him into the groove a little bit of working at the rotation. That could get his bat in the order, which the Mets needed, but they didn't do that. Why? Because they're afraid. And if you're going to manage as an executive or as a collaborative effort as a manager, GM, and assistant GM, or whoever makes those decisions to combine together, if you're afraid to make that decision because you're scared he's going to fail, you're never going to win that way. So you're scared to trade your top 25 prospects, but you claim that some of them are not ready. And it's obvious to me that Epler, you got to remember, guys, and when it comes to Epler, again, can Epler make make us really pissed off this offseason? Absolutely. I thought he did a very good job in the offseason last year and did a bad job during the trade deadline. So I'm giving him the opportunity this offseason to make that big move or two that can help this team get to the next level, because they're still below the Braves. They're still below the Dodgers in the National League. And you know what? At this point, you got the Padres who beat the Mets. At this point, I'm putting them above them because of the fact that if you're not going to beat the teams that you're supposed to be better than, then how are you going to get better? But Justin, I agree with you. I agree. I'd rather buy players than trade prospects. But here's the problem. Do we necessarily believe that the Mets are going to buy the players, right? I think the Mets should sign DeGrom, Senga, Nimmo, and Turner. If you give me that offseason, I'm satisfied. And of course, bullpen arms as well. That's an offseason that I say, all right, we're in this. This is the 3 to 5 year window I'm looking for. If you sign Nimmo, DeGrom, and Senga and bullpen arms, you're bringing back the same team. And okay, you might sign Josh Bell or Jose Abreu for DH. It's basically the same team. So don't expect different results with the same team because you're bringing in the same team. Unless Lindor's going to hit 40 home runs, which you're probably not going to get a better year from Lindor than he did in 2022. So you're just in that situation where you're bringing back the same team. So unless the Mets bring in if you want to bring back DeGrom and Nimmo, it has to be more. Because if it's not, then what are you doing with these prospects? Either put them in and play them and see what happens, or trade them for big time pieces. And you know what? We shall see, right? That's exactly what we shall see. And again, 3 to 5 years. We're in year 3 now. This is where it gets a little bit gritty now. Through this year, 2024 and 2025 is the window. If you're going to sign Jacob deGrom for a 3 or 4 year deal and have Max Scherzer for 2 more years, you got year 3 and year 4 as your most optimal time to win a World Series with those 2 guys. So if that involves Brett Beatty and Alvarez, bring them the hell up. If it doesn't, and you're not prepared to bring them up and put them on the roster and think that you 100% believe that they can help us, then spend the money this offseason and get the job done. If not, then I don't know what you're doing. You get into the same situation over and over again. You're going in a circle of motion. It's cyclical at this point, and that's something that you can't have. We'll see. I do expect the Braves again in Ohtani. That's not happening. All right. The Braves are supposed to get Jacob deGrom. I'm still waiting for that one. That's not happening either. I mean, you might even lose Swanson for that matter. I think with Epler, look, if the Angels are making trades and for Renfroe and Gio Urshela and sign Tyler Anderson, they're making moves. They're making moves. So they're not trading Ohtani. Unless it's a complete disaster in the first half and the Angels are basically out of it in the first half, then Ohtani's going to be on the team the entire year, which I think gives the Mets gives a leg up on Ohtani for 2024, which I don't care about yet. But if you're talking about Ohtani, Epler was the one who flew to Japan, had a conversation with Ohtani, got to know him, and made Ohtani comfortable coming to the Angels when everybody thought he was going to go to the Yankees. So Epler has that relationship with Ohtani. The Mets can pay anybody the most money. So Ohtani, a free agent, I really feel he will be a Met. But I don't care about 2024. That's the most important part. Because the important part is 2023. And again, Beatty Alvarez, either bring him up, let him win the job, or keep him in the minors And if something big comes up, and in the first half, the Angels are terrible, and they decide that they want to trade Ohtani, think about using your prospects to trade for Ohtani and sign Ohtani, because you're going to trade for him just like they traded for Lindor and signed him. They would trade him and make sure Ohtani does not leave their grasp. So we'll see. But once again, guys, with that said, make sure you check out the video that's going to pop up tomorrow at 3 p.m. It's about Senga. It's about DeGrom. The MLB Network has said that they believe Jacob DeGrom, that this is the rumblings that have been going around. And this morning on MLB Network, they said they believe Jacob DeGrom is going to make a decision in the coming days. I don't know what that means. Could that be a week? Could that be by the winter meetings, which is about 2 weeks away? We'll see. But I do believe the Mets are going to make it. I believe it's going to be a pitching signing. Either if it's going to be Senga or DeGrom, it's going to be one of them. I feel confident at this point that DeGrom is getting closer and closer to becoming a stay in the Met, because of the fact I think the Rangers realize that the Mets are probably not going to get outbid, and the Rangers are going to focus on getting Rodon. And there doesn't seem like a serious player that will go the years and the amount per year to acquire to sign DeGrom. So I think the Mets are probably are on top right now. It's probably about a 75% chance, 80% chance the Mets are going to sign DeGrom. Senga, who the hell knows? I'm surprised he didn't sign yet, but we'll see. So make sure you check out the video tomorrow that I'll post around 3 o'clock. It's going to be a premiere as always, so everybody can chat and have a conversation about the video when the video is going on at 3 p.m. So that video will pop up. So make sure you all join that video. And again, this is just talking about what do we expect Jacob DeGrom to get and Senga to get, and how the Mets can work a contract for both of those guys, and what those contracts mean to get in other players. So check that. Make sure you, when that premiere pops up earlier on tomorrow, like around 11, 12 o'clock, make sure you get on there early, hit on that like button, and let's see what we're going to do. There you go, Muttley. There you go. Hey, Braves fan, listen, I'm not a Giant fan. I'm a Cowboys fan. I can't be any happier. So, Danny Pennies, baby. Danny Pennies. That's all I got to say. Yeah, Justin. I mean, Seattle could be a threat, but I don't think Seattle's going to pay that much money. I think Texas is realized that I think they thought that Jacob DeGrom wanted to leave New York more than he actually wanted to, and thought they could probably get him with a little bit more of a cheaper deal. Not necessarily a bad deal, but a cheaper deal, because he wanted to leave New York. And when they realized that he's still 50-50 about leaving New York, they had to pay him. So, well, Braves fans, to be honest with you, there's a lot of Cowboys fans in New York. You'll be surprised. So, you know, the Cowboys fans all over the country, right? They ain't America's team because they're just America's team. They got fans all over the world, all over the country for that matter. So, I can't get into college too much, even though my Wolverines tomorrow have a big game against Ohio State. So, go blue, baby. Go blue. So, we'll see if my Michigan Wolverines can finally beat Ohio State and basically stamp themselves into the playoff, the 14 playoff. I don't think anybody's beating Georgia. Steve, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. We'll see what happens with that. So with that said, guys, remember, tomorrow around 11, 12 o'clock, the premiere with the DeGrom and Senga video will be posted around 11, 12 o'clock. It will come live at 3 p.m. And, of course, with the premiere, you can chat and have conversations during the video and before the video. So make sure you hit on that like button early and check it out at 3 p.m. Everybody, thank you for tuning in to MLB Free Agent Frenzy on this Friday, day after Thanksgiving. Let's hope this weekend we get something fun to talk about with rumors, possible offers to players, decisions by players. Let's hope we get a couple of signings this weekend so we have something to talk about, something to be mad about, something to be happy about. With that said, guys, everybody have a good night. As always, let's go Mets. We'll see. Brave fan, if you believe that, I mean, it's more likely that the Braves get nobody than the Mets. So with that said, everybody have a good night. Hopefully you had a good Thanksgiving. Hopefully you have a good weekend. I will see you guys on Sunday for MLB Free Agent Frenzy. If there is breaking news regarding the Mets, I will come live tomorrow. So with that said, everybody have a good night. Let's go Mets. I'll see you guys next time. Good night, guys.